Towering over the New Jersey Meadowlands, the Pulaski Skyway is more than just a bridge. It's a ribbon of steel weaving through history, a vital artery for commuters, and a landmark that stirs the imagination. Most people outside the tri-state area only know of this bridge from its notable appearances in film, from The Sopranos to Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt. It often takes on something of a grim role. Yet very few realize that this skyway has actually been associated with a mysterious host of crimes, disappearances, and tension. But what's the truth behind it? Join me to find out, as today we reveal the Pulaski Skyway's secret past. I'm your host Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. Long before this behemoth dominated the New Jersey skyline, the Hackensack River presented a significant obstacle for travelers. Although in the early days, the Lenape people likely paddled canoes across its waters, their European counterparts relied on ferries, a slow and often weather-dependent method of crossing. So by the 19th century, the need for a more efficient link became clear, as industry boomed in Newark and Jersey City. However, fixing this communication bottleneck would be a challenging job. The treacherous Hackensack River, prone to flooding and ice jams, made ferry crossings unreliable and frustrating, so building any significant structure in its vicinity was almost unimaginable. Even so, the demand for a bridge became blistering abundant by the early 20th century with the increased use of automobiles. Traffic congestion grew at the ferry terminals on both sides, and cars piled up, creating gridlock that sometimes stretched for blocks. If the ferry were canceled for whatever purpose, drivers would then have to take a much longer route to reach their destination. New Jersey could no longer hold out, meaning the stage was set for the engineering marvel that would ultimately become known as the Pulaski Skyway. Design began in 1919, alongside the Holland Tunnel, the first fixed roadway connection between New Jersey and New York City. Construction began in 1922, and the tunnel opened in 1927. With that in mind, the Skyway could provide a continuous highway connection on the New Jersey side to Manhattan. Hence, the New Jersey legislature passed a bill in 1922 authorizing the extension of Route 1 from its end at Elizabeth through Newark and Jersey City to the then proposed tunnel. This entire system was conceived as the nation's first superhighway. Although construction began in 1928, the bold undertaking would stretch on for decades. This was no ordinary project, as a cantilever truss with a central suspension span of this length demanded nerves of steel from the workers. Nicknamed skywalkers, they battled the elements, dangling from precarious heights, at times with rudimentary safety nets, and most often with nothing at all. Mother Nature was not exactly welcoming either. In 1930, a fierce storm tore through the site, sending a massive derrick plunging into the water. Thankfully, there were no casualties, but it was a stark reminder of the project's vulnerability. Then, as if physical challenges weren't enough, the project became entangled in a political quagmire. Funding shortfalls threatened to halt construction entirely, and accusations of corruption were cited in the news. The Great Depression exacerbated these issues, with some demanding the project to be scrapped altogether. And just when things looked most dire, a saving grace appeared amidst the chaos. Many workers were immigrants, driven by the dream of a better life in America, yet many did not have better prospects. Leading the charge was Othmar Ammann, the bridge's brilliant and determined chief engineer, famous not only for his engineering knowledge, but his ability to instill a sense of purpose in his workforce. You see, at the beginning of the 20th century, those who could quickly learn a new profession, particularly if it required skills with modern technology, such as advanced bridge building, they were awarded opportunity. And this was the case with Swiss immigrant Othmar Ammann. And it's interesting to compare how our society of 2024 is not entirely dissimilar. We are an almost completely digitized society, and some of the highest salaries in the tech industry have gone to those who have embraced modern technology. Seriously, you all know companies such as Tesla, Amazon, and Google Play. Their CEOs are at the top of the list of the richest people in the world. I'd also add that these companies give their employees the opportunity to work remotely, and most importantly, they offer high salaries. So how do you get there? Well, you can actually make this jump into tech in just 5 to 10 months, thanks to Tripleton Boot Camp. Their graduates are already working in these top companies on the market. What's more, Tripleton attracts students from all kinds of backgrounds. Teachers, nannies, drivers, TV producers. Trust me, you're not alone on this journey. The main difference between Tripleton and other boot camps is that if you don't get a job within 6 months, they will refund your money. Tripleton also offers flexible funding and externship opportunities with real companies. So to change your life and career, just sign up for a free session with a Tripleton advisor at the link in the description. Remember, it's not just about learning, it's about changing lives. Thanks to Tripleton for supporting the channel, and now back to New Jersey's Pulaski Skyway. Finally, against all odds, in 1932, a monumentous occasion arrived. The central suspension span was connected, marking a turning point and ensuring the project's positive conclusion. Despite the numerous delays and setbacks, the Pulaski Skyway loomed large as a symbol of progress in a nation still grappling with the Depression. After a decade of struggle, the Pulaski Skyway was ready for its grand unveiling on November the 24th, 1932. Dignitaries gathered, speeches were made, and the ribbon was cut. From that point onwards, a steady stream of curious cars and cautious trucks flowed across the bridge for the very first time. At nearly 4 miles long, newspapers hailed it as a marvel of modern engineering. The public, initially cautious, soon embraced its convenience. The new bridge connected Newark and Jersey City, passing places like the Passaic and Hackensack rivers, Kearney's Point, which is the peninsula between them, and of course the New Jersey Meadowlands. The road had no official name during the planning and construction and remained this way for a year and a half after its opening. In this period, it was known as the Diagonal Highway, the Newark Jersey City Viaduct, or the High Level Viaduct. But on May the 3rd, 1933, the New Jersey legislature passed a bill naming the road the General Casimir Pulaski Memorial Skyway, after Casimir Pulaski, the Polish military legend who helped train and lead Continental Army troops in the American Revolutionary War. An official ceremony was held on October the 11th, 1933, including unveiling signs with an abbreviated design. And so it was. The once frustrating ferry rides were a thing of the past, and the Skyway became a vital artery for commuters, an artery that, I might add, was plagued by safety issues. The Pulaski Skyway has always been a dangerous roadway. First, there was no median, and drivers passed slower-moving vehicles in the so-called suicide lane. You see, the 5-lane configuration included a tempting but treacherous element, the center lane. Initially intended for breakdowns, drivers quickly dubbed it the suicide lane for a reason. You see, it was unofficially converted into a passing lane, with traffic flowing in both directions. Attempting to pass in this narrow area was a gamble. It risked head-on collisions and left little room for error. The problems here are obvious: limited visibility and unexpected maneuvers from both directions, which is something of a worst possible scenario when it comes to road safety. The problems didn't stop there. The bridge's design, built for high speeds, featured a slippery concrete surface and incredibly steep left-side ramps. These factors, combined with the ill-advised suicide lane, contributed to a concerning numbers of accidents on the Skyway. Enter Frank Hague, the influential mayor of Jersey City. Concerned about the safety issues, he took a decisive step in November of 1933 by passing an ordinance banning trucks from the Jersey City section of the Skyway, which effectively prevented them from using the entire bridge due to its design. Jersey City police began enforcing this ban in January of 1934, and the New Jersey State Highway Commission followed suit shortly thereafter. While this decision might have frustrated truck drivers, it was a necessary step towards improving safety. As years turned into decades, the Skyway became a fixture of the New Jersey skyline, but unfortunately, by the 1970s, it also became a suspected dumping ground for criminals. The main conspiracy I'd like to cover started all the way back in 1957, when James R. Hoffa ascended to the presidency of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, or IBT, a powerful labor union representing truck drivers and other transportation workers. As a vocal advocate for workers' rights, he became a controversial figure, admired by some and accused of corruption by others. He was convicted of jury tampering, attempted bribery, conspiracy, and mail and wire fraud in 1964 in 2 separate trials. Then he was imprisoned in 1967 and sentenced to 13 years behind bars. Accordingly, in mid-1971, he resigned as union president as part of a commutation agreement with U.S. President Richard Nixon. He was released later that year, but was barred from union activities until 1980. Hoping to regain support and return to IBT leadership, he unsuccessfully tried overturning that order. In fact, it's been alleged that Hoffa's plan to regain the union's leadership was met with opposition from several members of the mafia. More specifically, Anthony Provenzano, who had been a Teamster local leader in New Jersey and a national vice president of the union during Hoffa's second term as its president. Provenzano had once been a friend of Hoffa's, but became an enemy after a reported feud in the 1960s when both were in federal prison at Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. So in 1974, Hoffa asked him for his support to regain his former position, but Provenzano refused and then threatened Hoffa by allegedly saying that he would kidnap and even disembowel his grandchildren. For context, Provenzano was a captain in the New York City Genovese crime family, and he meant business. At least 2 of his opponents had been murdered, and others who spoke out against him had been assaulted. Other mafia figures who became involved were Tony Jack, an alleged kingpin in the Detroit Mafia, alongside his younger brother Vito. The FBI believes they were positioning themselves as mediators between Hoffa and Provenzano. The brothers had made 3 visits to Hoffa's home, as well as 1 to the Guardian Building's law office. Again, their avowed purpose for meeting Hoffa was to set up a peace meeting. Hoffa's son James recalled, quote, "Dad was pushing so hard to get back in office. I was increasingly afraid that the mob would do something about it." James was convinced that this peace meeting was actually a pretext to take out a hit on his father, especially since Hoffa had become increasingly uneasy each time the brothers arrived. A warning he should have embraced, as on July the 30th, he would disappear forever. On the day of his disappearance, Hoffa left his home at 1:15 p.m. before heading to the restaurant where the meeting was set to take place. Between 2:15 and 2:30, Hoffa called his wife from a payphone, complaining that he was stood up. He told her he would be home by 4 p.m. and to get grilled steaks for dinner, and that was the last that anyone heard of him. He'd never be seen again. The FBI estimates that Hoffa left the location without a struggle between 2:45 and 2:50. One witness reported seeing Hoffa in the back of a maroon Lincoln or Mercury with 3 people. By 7 a.m. the next day, Hoffa's wife called her son and daughter to say that their father had not come home. By 7:20 a.m., a friend found Hoffa's unlocked car. However, there was no sign of Hoffa or indication of what had happened to him. So the police were called and later arrived on the scene. The FBI was also alerted. At 6 p.m., Hoffa's son, James, filed a missing persons report and offered $200,000 as a reward for any information about the disappearance. The primary physical evidence obtained in the investigation was a maroon 1975 Mercury, which was linked to the suspected criminal family we had discussed a moment ago. Suspicion was further confirmed on August the 21st when police dogs identified Hoffa's scent in that same car. The families denied having scheduled any meeting with Hoffa and were found not to have been near the restaurant on the afternoon that he disappeared. After years of investigation, officials have not reached a definitive conclusion. Hence, on July the 30th, 1982, Hoffa was declared legally dead by probate judge Norman R. Bernard. The trial went dark for decades, until in a deathbed statement, a landfill worker claimed to have buried Hoffa's body 15 feet below the surface beneath the Pulaski Skyway in Jersey City, New Jersey. Authorities took this information very seriously, and in October of 2021, the FBI obtained a warrant and completed a site survey in the landfill. By July of 2022, the FBI announced that nothing of evidentiary value was discovered from the survey, leaving nothing but questions. questions and a disturbing reputation for New Jersey's creepiest looking bridge, almost as if to ironically validate the Skyway's image in popular media. Only time will tell if Hoffa is resting under the bridge, or if perhaps the whole thing was just a weird deathbed hoax. Either way, until then, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off.